Hi everyone, and welcome to another Future Design Forum 10-minute-ish fireside Q&A session hosted by myself, Andy Smith of TDA Creative, the design, tech and product agency. I am delighted today to be joined by Matt Ström-Awn, who has just finished as a design leader at Stripe in New York and is about to start a new, very exciting role as head of design at Copilot Money. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Pleasure. So, Matt, I know you've written some papers and done quite a lot recently around AI and the marriage of AI and design. So, we've got a really good topic today, which is how AI will shape designers, not replace them. Very topical and very interesting. But before we go into the questions, would you mind giving us a quick lowdown of your kind of career today to where you are now?
Yeah, so I've been in design and design leadership for about 15 years. And over that time, I've led teams as small as, I'm the first designer on the team and need to build it up, all the way to working at companies like Stripe or the Wall Street Journal, big legacy institutions with thousands of people and hundreds of designers. And throughout the entire time, I've been focused on product design, so building digital interfaces. And as everyone knows now, like AI has just become one of the defining features of most digital products. So that's why I'm really excited to talk about AI today.
Good. Thank you. All right. Well, let's go into the questions then. Let's start off with what can designers do for AI?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. And I like that you phrase it that way instead of asking what can AI do for designers. I feel like the what can AI do for designers? That's like done to death. And it's cool. Great. There's generative AI. We know about that. I think that because AI has become so dominant as the underlying technical, concern for all of our digital products, it's really important for designers to ask, like, okay, well, what can I do to enable AI or to make AI better or to maybe make it more humane or ethical or to use it to help grow my business faster. And so I think there's just a ton of things that designers are uniquely equipped to do to help AI not just kind of like bring it into the world, but also help companies use AI in people-centered ways, in
Yeah.
ways that help create great outcomes. As product designers, we're focused on like user-centered design, thinking about how to help people, get their job done or, learn new things or develop new skills or, take care of really annoying tasks that they have to do. And so I think that designers' role is often in thinking about what is the actual problem that we're trying to solve for a person, and then thinking about AI and helping guide our teams, whether it's engineers or product managers or marketers, guiding the team in employing AI as a tool to help solve problems for people.
Yeah, I like that. It's a bit of a different mindset though, isn't it? I think which all of this discussion will come around, which is very interesting. And then in terms of AI, what do you see currently as best practices for designers with AI products?
With any emerging and brand new technology, there's a lot of different ways that different people are doing things. And we're kind of in this exploration mode where everybody's just trying out new patterns and things like that. But for anybody listening to this, I want to encourage you to go and look at this book, the guidebook that Google actually very presciently, like 3 years ago, wrote this thing called the People Plus AI Guidebook. And at the
3 years
time,
ago, okay.
yeah, 3 years ago, at the time, the fact that they were calling it AI was a little bit like, ha ha ha, yeah, whatever. At the time, we were just calling it machine learning. Like machine learning was what everybody talked about. And Google wrote this People Plus AI guidebook that is an amazing resource for exactly the kind of problems that we're trying to solve today when we're trying to do things like, okay, I have a AI recommendation that shows up in a search. How do I tell a user that this is powered by AI? And what do I need to explain about it? And this guidebook is just called the People Plus AI Guidebook. it
Okay.
is an amazing resource for what I think should be best practice. You know, as we go and explore, we're going to standardize around different things. It's really hard to say that there is a best practice today, but
Yeah.
I think that Google did a great job getting ahead of the ball and putting into this great free resource like, hey, when you you know, tell when you're introducing AI to a person, don't say like, oh, Google Bard is a generative large language model. You know, don't describe it in terms of the technology. Describe it in terms of the benefits. Say, Google Gemini is a you know, assistant who helps you do your work. And so things like that. I mean, this resource is, I mean, this guidebook is just full of these patterns, do's and don'ts, and also ways to encourage, like I said before, the ethical use of AI
That's
and
great.
not overusing it. I think one of the first patterns that it says, and what I think should be our best practice when designing around AI is don't use AI for everything.
Right.
It only use it for places where it's actually going to solve the problem.
And I'm guessing the fact that that was written 3 years ago, maybe it's not overcomplicating it too much.
No, not at all. It does a great job of I mean, honestly, because LLMs and generative AI and you know all of the different acronyms and technology that we talk about today, that didn't exist 3 years ago. So it
Right.
was sort of speculative, like talking about some
Yeah.
of the technology as it was just emerging. And so it's very simple. It is written in a very general way, and I think it's really applicable today. And in fact, I think there's a lot of ways in which I wish Google would go back and read it because I think their AI products today don't necessarily follow the best practices that they worked
Interesting.
out 3 years ago.
Well, we'll mention the book in the comment section if people want to obviously pick up on that. So that's great. And look, in terms of AI, the most common interaction for us users out there are the chatbots at the moment. Do you
Yeah.
think that's going to continue, or do you think there's some new patterns we're going to see be designed in the near future?
I've been thinking a lot about this lately, because as a designer, when I see the same pattern showing up again and again and again, especially around like the big new product that's launching, and then it's just the same old interface that we've seen before, I really want us to explore new things. You know, I'm like, surely there's a better interface for AI. Surely we can innovate and invent new things. And so on one side, I really want us to continue to explore ways in which AI can show up. And I think that this is the designer's job. I think that like
Yeah,
this is where only designers are going to figure this out is the new way that we can interact with AI. On the other hand, um, I was trying to figure out like why is it that chat is the primary way we talk to AI? And I think it's because chat is the primary way that we talk to each other.
true.
Like, you know, Andrew, like you and I are talking right now, and our brains, our human brains, and have developed around that is the primary way that we interact with the world.
Yeah,
And so, in some ways, like maybe we kind of skipped to the end of interface design with chatbots. Maybe we, by accident, or maybe somebody, and I wish I could talk to this person, whoever said like I think chat is the ultimate form of interface. But in some ways, I think it's a kind of an interaction that we as humans are fundamentally attuned to. And
yeah,
so I think that while we may find new and different ways that are a little bit more, you know, sophisticated when it comes to using technology, using keyboards and mouse and using voice and picture and using multi-sensory experiences and super fast processing, maybe
yeah,
we'll come up with new ways to take advantage of all those things. But I think that chat as the form of interacting with an AI will always be around and
yeah.
might always be the dominant form of interaction.
But I guess it may not always be vocal, right? 'Cause I'm not sure about you, but I like to spend quite a lot of time talking to myself in there. And
Yes.
maybe at some stage I'll be talking to someone else in there without moving my lips.
I was thinking about that the other day. Just I was listening to the thing about Neuralink, and now obviously there's reasons why we shouldn't start putting diodes in our brains before we know exactly what we're doing. But I was like, you know, just walking down the street thinking like, wouldn't it be nice if I could know what time the library opened without having to look at my phone? And that's I think we're eerily close to that.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that's going to happen a lot faster than we think. And
Yeah.
it's a little scary,
Yeah.
but I'm actually kind of excited because I'm an introvert and sometimes I don't like talking to people.
Interesting. Well, we'll see how that one goes. I'm sure design will play a large part in that, certainly ethical design as well. And
I think we have to. I think there's no choice. Designers
yeah,
have to play a role in that if it's going to be ethical, if it's going
yeah,
to be sustainable, if it's going to be, equitable. If designers aren't involved in it, we've seen a
yeah,
lot of cases in companies that don't value design. They make a lot of money and they build a lot of things, but
yeah,
sometimes they do it at the expense of other people and of even basic human rights. So
yeah.
designers
Well,
have to be involved and I think that's part of our responsibility
yeah.
as designers today.
There's a lot of personal IP and data kind of in these heads, aren't there? That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I do not want Elon Musk to know what my phobias and fears are. That is
There
for
you
sure.
go. All right, thank you for that. And look, in terms of design leadership, which we talk about a lot, what's the role of design leaders, do you think, in driving AI products and features? And in all companies, not just tech companies, the companies that aren't AI natives, the bigger corporates and the like.
Yeah, I think that with any technology, there is a tendency to see it as primarily just a code or just a technology in the very sort of mechanical sense of it, and to say that, well, let's let the engineers and scientists lead here and tell us what we should and should not do because they're the ones who are driving the frontier of the technology. And I think that as design leaders, it's our role to, first of all, build great relationships with those engineering partners so that we can understand what the technology is as it's emerging, so that we're not caught off guard when the next new development comes around. And sometimes that's a little bit daunting because you have to read papers and have to kind of understand. I mean, you don't have to be able to do matrix math, but you kind of have to understand like some of the basics of how LLMs and AI actually works. But then our second responsibility is to try and reframe AI as primarily a human concern rather than a technology and mechanical concern. Because at the end of the day, like we're going to be able to invent a lot of new and exciting things that can do a lot of new and exciting, things for people. But I think that if we don't reframe AI as going back to what I said before, a way to solve problems for people, then companies are, the people we work with, we're going to put a ton of time and effort and resources into research and development. We're going to build all these new systems. We're going to, start consuming, the entire power capacity that we're generating today just to train AI models. And then we're not actually going to have any real benefit out of it on the other end. Like,
Yeah,
yes, like I am really glad or I'm sorry, that's a little bit snarky. Yes, it's true that, the latest AI frontier models can solve the math Olympiad problems, but like my life isn't any better for it. And so
yeah,
I think that there needs to be a lot more conversation, a lot more framing, a lot more storytelling around what are these new technologies actually going to be able to do for people.
yeah.
And that's kind of the answer to the question of like what can designers do for AI? I think it is designers can define what AI can do for people.
Brilliant. That's a lovely way to finish our chat there because it's looped around nicely. Thank you, Matt. Really
Yeah.
interesting, really topical. I like the slant on it of thinking about what design does for AI rather than AI is going to do for everyone else. That's great. And to finish off, non-design leader related question that I always like to throw in. Anything you could tell us about yourself that few people know?
Yeah. I that's a tough question. I have a number of weird niche hobbies, but the one that I'm particularly passionate about is watchmaking.
Wow.
So I have a sort of side hustle as a watch maker slash repairer. And it's
Wow.
something that it brings me great joy and has nothing to do with computers or product design in any way possible. It really just scratches that itch of like sitting down and working on a little puzzle for a couple hours. So
that's pretty amazing. I didn't expect that. I bet that's one way to stay very present, isn't it? Working on one of those timepieces.
it is incredibly meditative and also very frustrating when you are working with little tiny pieces and your 2-year-old son comes in and moves your chair and you end up having a spring go flying across the room that you're going to have to find later.
Well, the good news for him is one day he'll have some nice watches. So that's good.
Yeah, that's right.
Matt, fascinating chat. Really great. Maybe we'll share a few of the other articles you've written, like in the comments as well, for people to view. But appreciate you joining us. Look forward to seeing you on further TDA talks and future events.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really great chatting today.
Cheers, Matt.